face. Losing control, yeah, I'm all over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the
Mark
right.
and I are on the same page with this song.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Reservoir Dogs.
There you go. Good call.
Thank you.
10:31 on this 24th day of April. Coming up this Thursday at the Edwardsville Public Library, Mark will be out there talking about a really great and insightful conversation about great horned owls. Mark, thanks so much for hanging out with us in studio today.
Thanks so much for having me, CJ. Honor and thrilled to be here.
Well, I don't know. It's not every day I have an award-winning naturalist right in front of me. And, you know, this is really fascinating. So I just had on Treehouse Wildlife Center, who does a great job, you know, preserving and saving so many of our, you know, animals and wildlife here. And we were just talking about the great horned owl, believe it or not.
Fantastic. Good,
I
good.
did not realize that they're pretty fierce.
Yes. It's one of the things that totally surprised me and simultaneously hooked me even further on great horned owls. I have been into animals all my life. I had a pretty decent background of knowledge on wildlife, but I knew nothing about owls. And when I first came across these great horned owls, one of the things that blew me away in my first sighting was that one of them chased a great blue heron, a bird twice its size, and the heron was not like, yeah, whatever, talk to the hand.
You're right.
Talk to the talons. The heron was terrified, and it flew out of there as fast as it could. And I was like, okay, that was interesting. I started doing my homework, and I learned that great horned owls, among the things they can eat, are indeed great blue herons.
That is fascinating.
Yes, and raccoons, and hawks, and wild turkeys, and the list goes on and on.
All I know is that these childhood books have been lying to me because I was just expecting some nice owl that was just. But it's really fascinating because Forest Park, which you won an award for that documentary, is really just a kind of an incubator, correct?
It's an amazing, just incredible ecosystem, multiple ecosystems. Over 200 species of birds have been documented in Forest Park, and so many different types of wildlife. I mean, just here we are in April, and I've seen deer multiple times and coyotes multiple times, and we're getting into spring, and the southern leopard frogs and eastern American toads are chorusing. And it's not like you go to Forest Park and you might see one cool animal in one place. You're going to see many cool animals in many different places.
And what I think is crazy about it is the zoo is right next to it, but there's a mini zoo or mini environment right there for all of us to go and attend, without being behind the cage, and being in front of the glass.
Exactly. That's one of the things that draws so many people in is that, wow, you can see the wildlife right here. And zoos have an amazing and important role, but it's also great to see things just roaming out and about. And I've seen animals that I never expected to see and continue to go there over 300 nights a year to not only study the owls, because when you study one type of animal without even trying, you're going to see other cool animals.
That's what I was going to ask you, if there was a chance for you to kind of learn about all these other, whether it's, a mammal, insect, you name it, you have a chance to really have a firsthand experience with that through this.
Definitely.
Wow.
And I try and find times to go to other places in the park where and when I'm not watching the owls, just to get a deeper understanding, a richer understanding, but also just in studying the owls. I mean, I led an owl prowl on Saturday night, my 20th of the year. I lead about 70 a year. I give about 50 talks across Illinois and Missouri a year. And we had a wild turkey right there in the woods.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's incredible. And so that's what I was going to ask you about as we kind of circle back. And by the way, I'm going to ask you about the Forest Park Owls blog here in a second, because this is a great way for you guys to stay up to date and learn at home. But you're going to be at Edwardsville Library this Thursday, and now take us through what this engagement's going to kind of look like, what we're going to experience when we walk through the doors.
Fantastic. Thank you. This is actually my 5th time presenting at the Edwardsville Public Library.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah, and my 7th talk in Edwardsville itself. And I've really been doing more talks in the Metro East area in the last several years. But again, I go throughout Missouri and Illinois. Just last week, I was in Columbia, Missouri. I'm going to be in Edwardsville. Then I'm going to be in the city of St. Louis on Saturday. And then next Thursday, back to the Metro East on the other side of things and Muscuda. So in my talk, I'm going to talk about how I found the great horned owls that I've now been studying for over 17 years. And then basic facts about the species. And then we're going to look at different behaviors of the owls, and not just with photos and videos from some random place. No, photos and videos that I've taken of these individual owls to examine their behaviors.
Well, and that's what I think is really neat about that too. You aren't using, like you just said, an AP stock photo or a Getty Images or what we have. This is your firsthand experience.
Exactly.
I mean, this is super cool.
Thank you. And when you see that light bulb go off, that wow, this is right here. I mean, there's a video I often show sort of in the last third of my talk, and I've finished showing this video, an amazing moment with one of the young great horned owls, and I've seen them have 27 babies over the years. And I finished showing the video, and I say, and this is happening in Forest Park, right in the middle of the city.
It's when you put it that way, though, that to me is the perspective, because all of this going on in the city, a million people and, crime or whatever, cars racing, but in Forest Park, the beauty is still there and it won't go away anytime soon, I don't think.
No, and it keeps getting better and better thanks to the partnership of the city of St. Louis Park, the Recreation Department, and the city as a whole with Forest Park Forever. And the transformation of Forest Park in the last 20 years is just absolutely amazing. And I moved to St. Louis in 1995.
Right.
And I started going to the park in the early 2000s when the renovation really started to kick into high gear. And just for an example, the area where I found the owls at that time was pretty much turf grass and trees. And now that particular area is a thriving matrix of wetlands, prairie, and savanna.
Wow. Well, and see, to me, it's so interesting when you look back and see the developments and what was put down, because and the lifestyle, I think, of certain decades, because that looks pretty, but that's not what we need.
Exactly.
And that's just, to me, it looks even better having that natural and especially too at the the jewel box with the St. Louis Water Garden Society making that look great, and then you have all this wildlife around it. Chef's kiss. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
And
well said. Well said.
I got to ask you about Welcome Home, Nikki Glazier, because you were featured on this. And actually, believe it or not, I don't have any personal tie-in, but before I left St. Louis Radio, that was the last big thing that my station was having Nikki on and talking about this, and just hearing how excited the host got. This was a big deal, and you were a part of it.
Thank you. That was just out of the blue one day. I was at my then job, and I get an email from this very nice man saying, "Hi, I'm a producer. I'm working on this new reality show with Nikki Glazier, St. Louis native." I said, "Oh yeah, I know who she is."
Right.
I can even quote some of her lines. And apparently, this producer goes on to say, "Well, she's really into birds, and we kept looking up cool bird things to do in the St. Louis area, and you and the owls just kept coming up over and over." And we thought, okay, we know what to do now. We're going to go on an owl prowl. And so we scheduled it, and we had to reschedule a few times.
Right.
TV production schedules have their challenges, and went on an owl prowl with Nikki and her boyfriend, and we had a blast. And we're walking along, trading jokes. At one point, Nikki said, "Mark, I might need to hire you to write for me."
Really?
Yeah. For example, I had my camera lens, which is a telephoto lens, so it grows in size, and it's already pretty good size. It's a 100, 400 millimeter lens. And I said, "Well, you can see that my lens is both a grower and a shower."
You win. All right. There's nothing I can come back with that one. And Nikki Glazier is one of the best at those jokes, especially with those Comedy Central roasts.
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Making St. Louis proud each time she's on the stage. And another thing, not to take away, from what you've done and what you've accomplished. We'll get to that in a second. But how is it, because it has to be nerve-wracking, oh man, I'm going to be with Nikki Glazier and we're taking you through. But, whenever you have to reschedule, does the pit in the stomach come each time? And you're like, well, hopefully tomorrow or hopefully this time.
Yes, it was like, okay, here's the date. Okay, no, the date just went away. Now here's a new date. And I've done enough things where it's like, okay, you just readjust, recalibrate, and so forth. But when it finally happened, I was like, because first of all, we have to find the owls.
Right.
These are, back to your point about the zoo. I mean, you can go to a zoo and not see an animal. It's very important that animals have private zoos, private spaces, and so forth. But there will be times where I can find the owls while driving my car, and other times I need over an hour to find one.
Really?
Because every day they mix it up and they use different spots to sleep in, not a nest, but a perch or roost site. And they will use different spots in different seasons. You think that's challenging enough? They use many different spots in the same season, and not 5 for the fall and 7 for the spring. At minimum, 10 to 15 different spots per season.
Really? Because I would have thought you're in one location, that bird's home.
Its general location, yes.
Gotcha.
But even there, over the years, there's been some variations. Spring of 2019, starting in the spring of 2019, Charles, the male that I've studied all these years, spent 5.5 months away from the core of his territory. And I had to start learning his new spots all over again. It wasn't like, throw away all your knowledge of previous spots, but you kind of got to put that on the back closet and lock it away. Now you're going to have to apply the knowledge and techniques you've learned to learning new spots.
Right.
And that was a great and fascinating challenge, not necessarily a welcome one, but okay, this is what's happening. Because, people think, they're just going to perform for us. No, these are wild animals. They're going to do what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it.
Well, Mark, sometimes I think we perform for the animals. They're watching us going, all right, what are these people going to do next? Well, and can you explain maybe, and I don't know if you know this information, but why do owls, pick different locations and, the 5 months away? Was there a specific reason for that?
I don't know.
Wow.
I wish Charles answered my emails.
Pony Express is next.
Exactly. And sometimes you can try to apply a logic to it. And you always have to remember, I'm doing my utmost to understand what it's like to be a great horned owl, but I'm not a great horned owl.
Right.
And why wasn't Charles in the middle tree yesterday when he hadn't been in the middle tree for probably a couple of weeks? And the spot that he was in the middle tree was different than the spot he used a couple of weeks ago. So Lou used different spots within the same tree. So one analogy I always give to people is think of your neighborhood, not your block, not your cul-de-sac, but think of your neighborhood overall. Think about going back to your neighborhood tonight, looking around, assessing the situation, saying, I'm going to sleep in that house tonight. Or that apartment building I was in on Wednesday, I'm going to go back, but instead of going to 7B, I'm going to go to 14G because that's what I feel like.
Wow. Now talk about a job and a half then to maintain all of this. Now I don't want you to spill your secrets obviously, but you have to have a lot of experience to be able to go, all right, no one's here. Charlie's not here.
Charles,
sorry. My name's Charles too.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, look at that.
All right.
By the way, no relation to the CJ's down the road.
I had to
ask me that question.
I was like, there's a juice bar named CJ's, and I'm meeting a DJ named CJ.
So, with that, how was that learning curve, to figure out these relocations, to figure out these habits? There has to be a pretty big one when it comes to that.
It is, and I'm so glad you asked that. People say, Mark, how do you find these owls? And I say it's 3 little letters. ESL. Not English as a second language. I hope I'm demonstrating a modicum of fluency right now. But experience, skill, and luck. And I also tell people to find the owls and find them in different angles and different spots and follow them. This took me 2 to 3 years, not to get great at, not to get good at, to get okay at.
Wow.
Now, one of the great joys and honors and surprises of my work is that I mentor people about owls. Mm-hmm. And it's something I've been doing almost as long as I've been studying owls. And one of the joys of this is seeing people grow tremendously, but sometimes it's like, son of a gun, how'd they get so good so fast? Oh, yeah, I taught them a lot.
Okay.
Not only how to find them, but where to find them. And a key phrase I use is that it's all about the angle. The difference between I don't see whatever animal you're looking at or, oh, hey, there it is, can be inches.
Just like, honestly, not to keep correlating it, but just like, at the, because hell, I mean, we at least know the general location of where the animal is, but just to find, especially with those reptiles in that house, you could look right at it for an hour and not see it.
Exactly.
Is that the same with owls too?
Oh, totally. I mean, I can, and even getting better at this, they keep you very humble. And a key phrase I use is open eyes, open ears, and open mind. Be open to new possibilities. And I'll never forget how that phrase came to mind. October 28th, 2007. I had been studying the owls almost 2 years. I was getting pretty good, but I still had a lot to learn. But on this day, I was being lazy. And Charles wasn't in this typical spot and not in that typical spot. Well, I missed getting crapped on by Charles by about 2 feet because he was right above me and I didn't see him.
Well, that would have been an interesting experience, to say the least. Huh?
Exactly. And this phrase just came flooding into my mind. Open eyes, open ears, open mind, most especially. Open eyes, open ears, open mind. And mouth, you might want to keep closed.
And, you know, I want to ask you, what is the most fascinating aspect to the owl that you would have never thought about?
Overall, going back to what we were discussing earlier, the fact that they can eat such large animals, that they are apex predators. Insane. I thought, again, I didn't know anything really about owls, but I knew about other wildlife. I thought, okay, they're going to eat smaller mammals.
Yeah,
and I started
mice.
doing my research. Yeah, rodents, exactly, rabbits, but they also eat fish and reptiles and amphibians and insects and worms. That wasn't too shocking. If you can catch a rabbit, you can probably catch a
lizard.
beetle.
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
or a lizard. And then, whoa, herons and egrets and hawks and minks and muskrats. They're one of the few animals that eat skunks. There's even a documented case in Arizona of a great horned owl killing and eating a bobcat.
In Edwardsville?
No, in Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona.
Did I say Edwardsville?
I don't know. I got Edwardsville on my mind. You know? But
There might be an Edwardsville in Arizona. We'll have to look that up.
Stay tuned.
Film at 11.
Yeah, you're ready to take on the show. Coming up from 11 to 1 is Mark. But to me, that I can't wrap my head around that, because you're going from an owl, which obviously has some very strong characteristics and body traits, to a bobcat.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes intelligence, too, to figure out how to hunt that animal to begin with.
Exactly. And I've seen them go after raccoons and great blue herons, and these animals are terrified because they know what that great horned owl can do. Like, oh my God, that was almost just my life.
Wow. And I want to ask you about the intelligence of the owl, if you don't mind me. With your experience, do they know who you are, or at least know what you're doing whenever you're out at Forest Park, you have, Charles is out there. Do they know you by this point?
At most, I generally think it's recognition. And I would attribute that to 2 things, which I'm sure are very high in your mind. Frequency, over 300 nights a year. Longevity, over 17 years.
Yep.
But more important than any of that is how I conduct myself. Yep. Here I am wearing a bright blue shirt. I would never wear this shirt out to go study the owls. I wear dark, muted colors, black, gray, brown, things like that. When I go out socially with some of my owl friends, I make sure that I wear different colors. That, Mark does have yellow, pink, purple, white clothes. Because Forest Park Forever just revised the figures for the number of people that come to Forest Park every year. For years, it had been a figure that many people don't even come close to, 13 million people. It's now over 15 million.
Wow.
And my point about this is no matter what we do in Forest Park, zoo, muni, picnic, jog, we all finish our time in the same way. We pack up and go home. Well, when I'm there with Charles and all the other animals, I'm in their home. I need to be a good guest. So when I'm there, I'm doing my best to observe and document the owls while being a good guest, while not being a distraction. So I don't think with Charles it's, Mark, hello.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah.
How's your mother? It's, okay, there's that guy, and he's not bothering me.
And to me, I mean, it's a respect, a mutual respect. And I've heard that before just because I'm a big animal guy, and the planet Earths of the world, and I tried to get David Attenborough on the show 4 times. He still won't come.
Come on,
that's
David.
Okay. I just tried to get a Zoom.
Hello, I'm here with CJ in Alton, and I'm sweating. I don't know why.
Not a lot of wildlife, But, anyway, I'm always fascinated by this. But to me, you have to be respectful, and there has to be a mutual respect. Otherwise, you aren't going to get the results that you need for your studies and what you're documenting. They aren't going to be willing to kind of show you a lot. And I'm sure there's a two-way street there as well.
Very much so. Just to give you an example, the other day I was giving a lecture out in Carbondale. It was my 4th talk in Carbondale, 2nd this year. Again, I go all over Illinois and Missouri. And I stopped by early before my trip to check on the owls. and I saw Charles in a spot that he had been using quite a bit, which he hasn't used for weeks now.
Wow.
And he gave me a glaring. And his body language and his facial expression told me, I'm not happy with you, where you are, and what you're doing. What did I do? I backed off.
Yep.
And right away, he went back to sleep. And I had been being very quiet. I wasn't wearing the bright blue shirt. I had a nice brown jacket on. I'll even wrap my keys in a rag so I don't jangle as much. But he was not happy at that time. And I was like, okay, I know that. I'm backing off. And if I come back in 5 minutes later and he's still not happy, I'm going to come back 10 minutes later and just very respectful. And, very early on, I did a bit of mental math. I thought, would you mess with a raccoon? Probably not.
No.
Well, you don't want to piss off an animal that does.
You know what? That's actually a great way to look at it. And it just goes back to that respect. And we have a couple of minutes left. I told you, 15, 20 minutes. A little bit longer, but this is really cool. I mean, this is my wheelhouse. I love hearing about the study of wildlife and anything, mammals, birds, you name it, because this is so fascinating.
Thank you. I appreciate your passion.
I'm telling you what. And now, is everyone welcome on Thursday, no matter what age, to kind of learn?
No matter what age. We're going to be there for about 90 minutes to talk all about the owls. I never say when I present anywhere that this is my talk, take it or leave it. I respond to my audience. What are the ages? What are the stages? Cool. What's the vibe I'm getting, to put it very scientifically?
Yeah.
And let's adjust from there. And I really try and emphasize what I call the E words, and I hope I'm demonstrating that here. Energetic.
Yep.
You could be giving out $100 bills. If you're not energetic, forget it.
Here you go.
Engaging, connecting with people, entertaining. We're going to have some fun. I mean, I start one of my first things I say is I just want to reassure you that I do study owls because many of you are meeting me for the first time and you're noticing the lack of hair. I want to reassure you that I do study owls and not bald eagles. And then through all of these, the last and most important word is educational. That, hey, we're going to learn some really interesting stuff, and we're going to come away and have a good time. I could make a very interesting topic really boring.
Well, that's true. That is the talent in itself, too, because I've been a part of those where you're like, speaking of this, I'm a pro wrestler. So, and got to train with, Dustin Rhodes and all that, and, everyone knows that by now. But anyway, we're sitting there, and this woman came in, and she was talking about IP law. Well, that's exciting. I'm telling you what, I was so engaged. It was 4 hours, and I was it's the way you talk. It's the way you interact with folks. And then on the flip side, talking about learning new moves, watching paint dry. You know?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And so can people ask questions? Can they get insights on how maybe they can start documenting in their own backyard?
Definitely. And through all of what I do, I really try and demonstrate both explicitly and implicitly is that, hey, I'm just a guy. Anyone can do this.
Yeah.
Citizen science. Anyone can be a naturalist. What's the definition of naturalist? Well, I'm a Missouri master naturalist, and the definition we use is someone who studies nature and shares it with other people, whether on the interwebs, on the radio waves, in person. So, yes, there'll definitely be time for Q&A. I always tell people I am here to answer your questions until the cows come home or the cops get called.
Me too. I knew we got along for a reason.
Definitely.
I love it. And I mean, it's really, to me, it's about getting the younger generations excited to be outdoors too, because I'm tired of seeing your kids on TikTok when I'm at a restaurant, okay? And to me, this is going to give us another incentive to bring the little ones, or not too little, but enough to where they understand and can learn. And I got to ask you, because we have a couple of minutes left and might as well keep taking it to the top of the hour.
Great.
How can we, how did you start the documenting process? I mean, how does that even work? Because, do you just take notes, or just there observing visually? What does that look like?
So I have very bad handwriting. It's sloppy. It's
Same.
slow.
Same.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's perfect handwriting. So instead of trying to take notes down, I have my camera, and I flip the camera to video mode and talk to my camera, record notes there.
Gotcha.
And then I take lots of pictures, lots of videos, and I can compare what I saw yesterday to the day before, the week before, the month before, and now years before. It's interesting, that turkey sighting I mentioned on Saturday. I was talking to one of my friends and owl mentees, Alexis Miano, and I said, I haven't seen a turkey in that area for years. She said, no, wait a minute, Mark. We saw one last year. And I said, yeah, kind of rings a bell. Go back to my photo records. Sure enough, we saw 2 turkeys in that area last May.
And to me, that's even better because you keep accurate in your notes and your findings.
Yes.
Oh, that's
yeah, and I'm like,
awesome.
oh, yeah. So where did we see that turkey? And very close to where I saw that other turkey. I'd forgotten it. I was a turkey, but I wasn't too much of a turkey. I had made a note of the turkey.
And this is, to me, this is what's selling the engagement, too. Because like you said, you aren't going up there, and the owl is a very fierce predator. And, you know, you're making it fun. And I want to ask you about your blog and ways we can stay up to date, because I'm going to follow you. This is fun. I want to learn more about what you're doing. How can we do that at home?
Many different ways. My girlfriend has often asked me, Mark, are you going to keep your blog? Because it's more of a history book at this point. I continue to win awards for worst blogger in the world, but I do keep my blog somewhat up to date, but I'm using other tools more frequently. Instagram, I'd post probably several times a week on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Forest Park Owls. Very easy to remember. YouTube, I'm easy to find there. And there is just so much stuff that you can check out in so many different ways. And then, yes, my blog, forestparkowls.blogspot.com. I always keep a list, for example, of my next several public engagements.
Oh, cool.
I also do private talks for schools, civic groups, garden clubs, you name it. I will talk to you. You want to learn about owls? I will talk to you about owls.
And now how do we, if a school is interested, just go to those Instagram or those accounts and reach out that way?
They can do that, yeah.
Perfect.
Email me at mglenshaw@gmail.com.
And he responds very quickly. I sent you a message and you were right away, let's do this. And I appreciate it because all this is about getting new insights and learning about all that's going on, events-wise, you name it. And to have you in here, award-winning. By the way, a native of Washington, D.C., how did you get involved in St. Louis?
I came here to go to WashU.
Really, that's it?
One of my older brothers went to WashU. I was going to a small school in New York City, liking the school, but I was like, nah, it's not the best fit. And I was very interested in Columbia University in New York City and WashU.
Wow.
Didn't get into Columbia, got into WashU. I moved here in 95. I thought, oh, I'll come here, finish my degree. You know, you meet a girl, you meet some owls.
Yeah, you meet some owls. And then you're here, you know?
Yeah.
And then
27 years and change later.
there you go. And then once again, what time is this on Thursday at Edwardsville Library?
I believe off the top of my head, I should know this better, but I believe 7 p.m.
7 p.m. and it is because I just checked. I was just quizzing you know?
Good. Yeah, no, I'll be there about 5:45, 6 o'clock. I like to have plenty of time to set up and so forth.
This has been so fun, and I really mean that. I've gotten to learn so much just in a little bit of time, and you guys can learn a hell of a lot more on Thursday when you're here with Mark, and whenever you want to come back on, you are more than welcome to do so. This was too fun.
Thank you. This is even better than I expected, which is saying a lot, because I was watching some of your shows. I said, wow, this guy's really into what he does, and I would love to come back.
Awesome,
Thank you, CJ.
Mark. And keep up the great work in documenting, and really appreciate your time today. And I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me. We're out of time. We're taking it to the top, Mark.
Fantastic.
Tomorrow, Andrew Niederhauser with Hainer Public Library and so much more. So I hope you join me live, 9 o'clock on the dot. So on that note, just have a great day. Go see Mark on Thursday. But most importantly, try your best to stay out of jail.